Hey everybody, today I'm going to quickly go over closure in JavaScript. Closure was one of those things that I found really confusing for a long time, but it's actually really quite simple once you understand it. So in order to understand closure, you have to understand scope in JavaScript. So right here I just have a quick example of how scope works in JavaScript. Up top, we're defining a variable called name, and it's being assigned the value of not Ryan. Now this variable lives in what's called the global scope. So name is accessible from anywhere within our program, and you'll see right here in this console log, we're accessing it with this console log here. Outside function scope name is name. So the JavaScript engine says, okay, I need a name variable. It looks around for a name variable inside the global scope, and it finds it right here. Inside of our person function here, the only way to create a new scope in JavaScript is with a function. So in here, when we have a console log inside of our function scope, it looks for a variable called name, and because we have one here that's actually called name with the value Ryan, that's what it puts right here inside the console log. So inside a person, the only reason this is actually running is because I'm calling person down here. But you'll see on the right-hand side, inside the function scope, the name is Ryan. Outside the function scope, the name is not Ryan. You can't go inside the function, inside of a child scope, from a parent scope. The way we can do it actually is with closure, but when you're just using strictly scopes like this, you can't do that. It only goes from inwards to outwards. Now, the way we can use closure to be able to access this variable from outside of this function is using another function actually. So we can write another function called sayName. Alright, and all sayName is going to do is we're going to copy this and paste it in there. Alright, and so all it's doing now is inside the function scope, the name is name. What we're going to do is we're actually going to return from that function this sayName function. So I'm going to create an object though also, and I'm going to name a property on it called just sayName, and I'm going to assign it sayName. Now because I have both of these are the same thing, the same title, I can actually just write it once, and JavaScript knows that that's what I want to do. So if I were to console log here out, actually I will create another variable called let Ryan equal person. So now this variable Ryan is holding the object we were returning from this person function. So if I were to console log out Ryan, you'll see right here sayName is it's just an object with one property called sayName on it. So what I can do with that is I can call Ryan.sayName, run that, and then it'll say inside the function scope, the name is name. So I can get rid of that. And so what's happening here, the reason this is working, it shouldn't be working if you think about it, because person is executing up here. We're creating this variable, creating this function, and then we're just returning the function. We're not returning the variable. The variable is still scoped to inside of person. The reason is because sayName is referencing that variable. It's closing over that variable in this scope, and then we're returning that function call. And because we call person, it returns that object with the function to the Ryan object. So now when I access Ryan.sayName, this function is remembering what variable is here. Remember, the Ryan object doesn't have a name variable. There's no name variable inside the Ryan object. It's just a sayName function. So technically, this variable should have been garbage collected. Right here, we call the function, it runs the function, it's done. That should get garbage collected by JavaScript, but because we have a reference to it from one of the functions that we're passing out of this function call over here to outside of this scope, it doesn't get garbage collected, and we can reference it there. So another thing we can do is I can change the name. Okay, so now, and then if we also put that inside of our returning object, change name. Now the Ryan object will have a change name function as well. And we'll change that to another name. Okay. And then we'll do Ryan.sayName again. So you'll see, we should see Ryan.sayName will be Ryan, and then it will change the name to another name, and then the Ryan.sayName will print out another name again. So we'll run that, and we will, let's get rid of some of these more confusing console logs here. I'm going to get rid of this one too. Actually, I'm going to keep that one. Alright, yeah, that should work. Okay. The reason this is here is because of the flag. But, so let's actually get rid of the flag. Alright. So, we're running this function. It's creating a variable called name. And it's creating these two functions. And then we're returning out an object with a reference to these two functions. We're not returning the variable at all. Then we say Ryan.sayName. It runs this function. Because this function is closed over this name variable, it has access to it, so it can print out the name Ryan. We then change the name to another name. So because change name has a reference to this variable, it will actually change this variable. And so when we call Ryan.sayName again, you'll see the sayName function is just referencing this variable, but we've already changed it. So now it's going to print out another name. But then you can see that it's not actually changing this global name variable at all, because we're running outside the function scope. The name is name, and that's still not Ryan. So that's been a quick explanation of how Clojure works in JavaScript. Please leave any comments or questions in the comments, and I will try to answer them. Hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.